Could you tell us your name and describe for us the years for you before the war?
My name is Sala Grinblatt, and I was born in Poland, in a little town. And there was like half and half Jewish people and half Gentiles. We lived very nicely with our neighbors. We played in the group with the same children, and we went to school with Gentiles and Jewish, always like half and half Jews and half Gentiles. We got along very nicely. And up till 1939, the war started on September the 1st, and that was on a Friday. I remember it very well. But 2 days before that Friday, people that lived close near the German border started evacuating. And a lot of people were on the roads, and then friends started coming to our house. We had 3 rooms filled with people everywhere. By Friday night, we just couldn't move anymore in the house. That's how crowded it was. And we ate together whatever we had. By Sunday morning, we ran out of food, and we tried to go to the bakery, although everybody was scared already because we could see fire and smoke all around town, and there was a lot of Polish. The army was there, a lot of soldiers everywhere. They took away our fences, they were on the roofs, and they were starving too. So my mother told me to rush to the bakery and see if I can find something there. And I brought just some rolls they must have been very old. And I started throwing it up on the roof for the soldiers because they were starved, the Polish soldiers. And then they asked for water, so we gave them the water, and they put the rolls in the water, and they soaked it in the water, and that's how they ate it. And then they told us, run away as fast as you can, just run. So we didn't know where to run. And besides that, my grandmother and my grandfather that lived in the same house, they didn't want to go anywhere. They remembered the wars before, World War #1. So they didn't want to move him. My father didn't want to leave him. But anyway, they start shelling and a lot of shooting. And my father says he has to save the children. So we started running, but it was already too late. So we went in one brick house. And my older brother said, well, we have to be on the watch out because there's a lot of fires around. So he suggested that 2 young boys would be on the outside looking where the fire is. It didn't take long, and they came and they reported all the time which building is burning. And at one time he came in, he says, we have to move because next door is already the house on fire.
Excuse me. How many children were there in the family? How many people in your family are we talking about?
My family, I had 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and 1 sister.
Thank you.
5 children. So we wanted to go out through the front, but the people were scared, and they were running in the front, and then the front was locked, so we started going out through the back, and when we started running out through the back, there was a big noise, and it hit the house. People got so confused, we tried to get back in, but it was already locked. People, the owners locked already both doors. They were afraid that somebody's gonna rob them. It's very silly, but that's what happens, a lot of confusion. So anyway, meantime, our parents kept on telling us, hold hands, each one, hold hands. And we realized that that brother that was on the watch out wasn't with us. So we started screaming and looking for him and calling his name, and we couldn't find him anymore. And we rushed out from the building because it was already on fire. And we were running through the river, and we were running through the fields until we got to far away on the outskirts of the town. And my father knew the people there, so we went in, Gentiles, and he had the radio on. On the radio we heard that England is coming to help out in the war. And we stayed there for a little while, and then they told us to go because they were afraid we are Jewish and they were not going to be caught holding the Jews. They were scared, so they told us to go. So we started again running until we came to the forest. And quietly, it was already dark then, quietly we just moved in there on the outskirts from the forest, and we just lay down. We couldn't run anymore, we couldn't walk anymore, it was dark too. And we spent the night there. There were a lot of people, we heard a lot of voices, and the rockets were real big. It was just like, after dark, it was just like, again, like the daytime. That's how many rockets were there around. And anyway, we stayed there overnight, shivering and all this. And the morning, we were discovered that we are Jewish people. And some people that really knew us, the non-Jewish, but they told us it would be better if we go a little bit farther. And they said, in this forest up there, a little bit, maybe about a mile farther, there's a lot of Jewish people. Somebody told us that. So we started walking there. We knew that they didn't want to see her, and we didn't see anybody, any Jewish people there at all. So we started running to the other woods. Needless to say, every few minutes we just had to throw ourselves on the ground because there was still a lot of shelling. And at one time, airplane was there all the time, just cruising around. They probably thought that maybe we were soldiers or whatever. And we were laying there quiet, we couldn't talk. And my father at one time, he says, when I call your name, if you hear me, just make a move so we would know, but don't say anything. Just move with a bush or something like this. Some of the bushes, you know, the leaves from the bushes, they fell on us. That's how low the airplane must have been there. And we lay there maybe like 3 hours. Finally, we got out of there. There were no more airplanes. And we came already to the place where we wanted to be. And those forests, we knew the owners from that forest too. They were a little related to us, distant relation. So there were about 70 families in those woods there. Children and old people and horses and cows. People tried to save them. And we were there for about 7-8 days that the shelling was still on, and we were building trenches, but it was like sand and it caved in. So we refused to stay in the caves, you know, in the trenches. We didn't want to get caved in because it was very scary. We slept through maybe one night there, but then we said, we are not going in there anymore. Why bury ourselves alive? So after about a week, maybe 10 days, we were hungry. There was nothing to eat. We were starved. We didn't have anything in all those days. So my father said he's going to try and catch some fish. He made himself a little, whatever you call it, that fish from some of the branches. He took a piece of wood and he made something to go and catch some fish. And then my sister says we can run to the mills and get some flour. It wasn't too far. It was dangerous. Men or boys, we wouldn't trust them to go because we knew that they're recognized more faster than the women. So my sister said she's going to go. My sister was at that time about 22, maybe 23 years old. And when I heard she's going, I said, I'm going too. So pretty soon we got a group together and we all went to get some flour. It was scary. We came in and there were soldiers everywhere around, but they didn't mind. They told us, help yourself. So everybody took a little bit of flour with us and we went back to the woods. And then we started mixing it with water and we made a fire and we tried, to do with it whatever we could. Yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention there was 2 rooms that the secretary lived there. He was in charge, of all the working people. Naturally, we knew him, but those people, they had 2 daughters. They gave up their home quarters, their living quarters, and they told Jess the newly born babies should be in there with their mothers. And the cows, they had 2 cows. The milk was going just for the newly born babies and for the mothers. And they had a kitchen there, they had a stove. So that's when we mixed the flour with the water, and on the stove, we made like some, what should I call it, pancakes or whatever, it was flat, didn't have any baking powder or anything, but it was something to eat. And then we went to the fields and we started digging some potatoes, and we made a fire and we baked those potatoes in the fire, and that's how we lived there in the woods.
Where was this? What city would be nearby?
It was, my hometown was Czechoslovakia.
And this was right there.
And this was, they called it Dębowiec. It was nothing but the woods and what is it called? Where they make from the woods, they make all kinds of boards.
Lumber?
Lumber, yeah. They had a big lumber yard. And they only had one little house there and some stables for the cows and horses. And the secretary lived there. The place was known to us because we used to go there quite often, on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday. Whenever we had time, we would go there, and they had a beautiful river there, so we would swim in the river. We knew about that place, and it wasn't far away from the house, maybe about 7 miles from the house. So we would go there for picnics. It was private property, but we knew the owner, and so we had no problems going there. And we would pick, in the season, we would pick some blueberries or other berries there. So it was really nice for the children. We stayed there for 5 weeks. Since we knew the secretary and we were distant relatives, so to say, when it started raining, they gave us a better place. And that was on the garbage, where they kept the garbage. It had a roof over it. It was like a big hole there where they put the garbage. But they had a roof over there, so when it was raining, at least we didn't get wet. And it was more private, it was just for our family there. But the rats were impossible in the nighttime. They were crawling all over us. So one day we decided we're going to go to town and see what's left there from our house. And actually everything was bombed, everything was burnt but we digged out some couple pots. They were burned to black, but at least it was a pot, it was a container. And we digged out a few spoons and forks, everything was black. And so we had something, we thought we had something to cook in. And we also digged out what we prepared when the war started. The radio would tell us, the newspaper, that we should prepare something in case of a war, we should have some food there. We had some cream of wheat there, and we had some sugar, and we had some flour. Everything, we took it out, it was just like a big rock from all the rain, from the fire and the rain. It was just like a big rock. It was green, it was yellow, but nevertheless, we took it and we start grinding it with other rocks, with a hammer. We brought the hammer there, and we grinded it, and we started using it. It didn't taste good, it didn't smell good, but we were hungry. A few days later, we decided we're going to go to a neighboring town. That was Zawiercie, but later on the Germans named it Wartenau, German name for it, because they connected it to the Third Reich. And we walked there about 40 kilometers. We walked the whole day till we got there. We had a lot of people that we knew there. My father used to tend his business in this town. So we thought, well, we'll find a roof over our head, because this was already in October. It was already cold. And we came. We found some friends that we knew, and they gave us a key for their next-door neighbors, because they were not home. They ran away, and they said, as long as they're not here, you can stay here temporarily. So that was just wonderful. We got in the house, and we found, the big pots, and we found, we first of all, everybody washed a little with warm water. We found towels there that told us to use whatever we need. And we found some clothes, so we could take off ours and we could wash it. It was full of lice, everything. Big lice, not little ones. You didn't have to look for them. They were crawling all over. And we stayed in that house for maybe 3-4 days. We didn't want to interfere. And we found a room for ourselves that some people told us about, and we rented it with no money to pay. But they let us in, and they said whenever we have the money, we can pay for the rent. So that was a big relief we finally had. And we had that flour that we brought, the rock. So some friends, they gave us a table with a couple chairs. And it took us about maybe another couple weeks. Some of our Gentile friends from the neighboring countryside, they found out that we moved to Wartenau. They went door to door, and they got some food for us, begging, a couple of friends, old friends. They knew the whole family, we knew them. They went door to door, and they collected some food, and one day they came with a big wagon, horse and wagon, and they brought us some food. They brought even a live goose for us, and straw that we would have. We didn't have any mattresses, just straw to put on the floor so we can sleep on straw, not on the hard floor. And for a while we had good food to eat, all kinds of vegetables, some potatoes, and it was just wonderful. It lasted.
How long were you there? How long were you there?
Where? In that house?
Yes.
Well, we were there. That was supposed to be our home from then on. We rented it. So pretty soon things start settling, and we would get stamps for the food. We start going for the bread, but we were not lucky enough to get anything, because by the time we got the big lines, by the time we got to the door, there was nothing left. And sometimes the Germans, they would make just fun of us, and they would say, oh, we have still one bread, who's going to get it? And everybody started pushing and killing each other, to get that bread, and they would just throw it in the air for us, to run after it, just to cause a war between us. They were just teasing, and they were taking pictures of us, how we fight about the bread to get. One time, a friend of ours came, and they said they are going in the line 12 o'clock. So they're going to be close. When the door opens, they're going to be close, and they can get the bread if we want to go through. My father wouldn't let us go because there was a curfew. You couldn't get out during the night, because if they find you, if the Nazis would see somebody, and if you were Jewish, they would kill you right there and then. But after a few weeks, we were starving. I said, I'm going to go. So I persuaded my parents, and they let me go.
How old were you?
I was already 16. And one time I was lucky, and I got a half a bread. But I noticed, I turned around, I noticed there were a lot of little kids. And when they saw that somebody got the bread, Gentile kids, they just grabbed it from you. And you tried to get it back, but they gave it to the next one. The next one, they had a line. And 1 second, it disappeared. You couldn't. I noticed that, and I put it in under my coat, and I saved it. I came home. That was the luckiest day in my life. I brought home a half a bread. And then it was very bad. Our potatoes were gone already. You couldn't find anymore. Everything had to be bought on the black market, and if they catch you with it, for every little thing, it was death sentence. They asked it to the Nazis, they asked it to turn all the gold that we have, all the jewelry. And if you don't turn it in, and they find it on you or hidden in your house, right away they will kill everybody. Then they ask for the fur coats, the same way. Then they ask if anybody who had a business to turn in all what they have. Otherwise, it's the same thing, death penalty. You can't buy anything on the black market. If they catch you with something, it's death penalty. And they really did it. They would shoot a lot of people. You were hungry, and you took, what's the use? To starve? What's the difference? So you take a chance. Mostly, the children would go out to try to bring some food in. It got very bad. And that's the way we went on, just hunting for food all the time, eating whatever we could just to satisfy your hunger. And about 1940, I had a little girl there. It was actually my father's cousin's child. And I made for her a little sweater, knitting. I was very good in it. That was my hobby. So when they got the present from us, they were so happy with it, and they asked to make for the little boy. They insisted they wanted to pay, or what did I need the money for? So they probably had some sources that they had more food, and they started bringing in food to us. And of course, it helped. Then they gave us customers. I only worked for food. I wouldn't do it unless they would pay me. I didn't want any money. I wanted food. So no time at all, I worked out a good name for myself, and people were coming in, and they would bring some potatoes, whatever. Then my older sister started helping me out, and my mother started helping me out. And it was like a whole shop that I had there. Even my little brother started helping me out. That was all we could do to get a little food in. In 1940, in November, they start taking men. That wasn't for the local. For the local, the men, they start taking men, catching them like dogs in the street to work locally. All kinds of work on the road, you know, and that irrigation or whatever they call it, with the water, with the, and factories. They didn't pay for it. And then they got smarter, and they asked from the Jewish committee that they need every day like 100 young men, 200, 300, whatever. So they were always after the men. My brother, who was a year and a half older than me, he found himself a job in a factory.
How old would he have been at that time?
How old he was? He must have been close to 18 at that time. And he found a job in the factory. And they gave him a passport that he could get out, you know, in the dark to walk there, and he could come home in the dark after hours, not to bother him. So that was a big help. They paid him a little bit too. And my older brother, I forgot to tell, the one that was lost, I forgot to tell that. He came back after 7 weeks. He ran with the Polish soldiers. When he ran out of the house, he couldn't get back in because the house was on fire. And so he ran with the soldiers, and then he ran away from them because he saw what was going on. And the town that he settled in, that he was stationed, he saw later on they were building their borderline because the Russians went into that town. It was close to the Russian border. So when he saw that they're building a borderline there, he realized that it's going to be hard to go back to his hometown. So he just, one day he got up and he says he has to go home to find out if anybody's alive. He didn't know if anybody survived that shooting, that fire. So he came after 7 weeks. He was there. In the meantime, he got married and he moved out of the house. And that went on for about a year like this. In 1941, it was in November, they started getting the men to forced labor camps out of town. So naturally, a lot of the Jewish men, the young boys, they were hiding. So this brother that had permission to work in the factory, he wasn't afraid because he was legal. He had a job. They wouldn't send him out because they needed him there. My father was under 50, and he was hiding. And my older brother, like I said before, he was in a different town already. He was married. My little brother was only about 11, 12 years old at that time. So I was in the house with my little brother one afternoon, and my grandfather was already with us too. And my mother went out to see what's going on. She says, keep the door locked. I locked the door. But the German Nazi came there, and he knocks on the door. So you have no choice. You have to open it. He came in, and he's reading the names of my brothers. And I told him that brother's not living with us anymore. Where is he? I said, how would I know? He's married, and he's not here anymore. He's in a different town. We're not in touch anymore. He says, what about my other brother? I said, yeah, he works in this factory. I told him. I knew it's legal, so I wasn't afraid. What about my father? He asked then about my father. I say, he left the house in the morning, and I don't know where he is. He says, you're lying. He hit me with a rifle. He says, you come with us. I said, where you take me? He says, you come, you'll find out. So my little brother started crying. My grandfather was ready to get a cane, and he wanted to hit the Nazi man. He was a little bit off already. He was, old man. And he is taking me. And then we passed. My mother saw that he is taking me. She must have made a face or what, and he noticed it. He says, this is your mother, isn't it? And I didn't say anything. He grabbed her, and he said, took us both. And they took us in where they had all the men, and they kept us there for hostages. As long as my brother turns in, when my brother and my father will come, that's when they're going to let us out. Otherwise, they'll keep us there. They will send us away. Well, we stayed there till after midnight, and then they released us. We didn't know, but they called our names and they told us to go home. So we went home. When we came home, my grandfather said that my brother turned himself in. He was sure that he's legal, so he didn't think they're going to take him. But they did take him. Next morning, they sent away all the men to a forced labor camp. So that was our first big sorrow. My parents cried, and we were unhappy, and every time we served the table, there was his chair where he used to sit. Nobody could sit in his chair. She would even put a dish there. My mother got very fanatic about it. And she hoped, she says, someday he will return, and this is his chair, nobody can take it away. So that went on for a long time. Then they started catching gyros. My parents would hide me every time somewhere else. Once I was in the basement, covered with potatoes. Once I was in the basement, covered with the coal. Once I was in the attic. Once I was in a garage, covered with the snow and everything. I nearly froze to death. They would push me in all different kind of places. That went on for months and months. And finally, I got tired of it. I said, I don't care what's happening to me. I'm not going to hide anymore. But they expected the big one is going to come up. They're going to catch a lot of gyros because they couldn't, nobody went voluntarily, and they needed the gyros. They wanted to get rid of the gyros. So my older sister was hidden with some Gentile people. A friend, a Jewish friend, took him there. And I was hiding, like I said, all those places. It went on since Monday. It was already like Thursday night. I said, I can't take it anymore. I said, whatever's going to happen, I want to be in the house. So my parents said, all right, you come in the house. And they put me in a little night cabinet. You can imagine how big I was. I fitted in the night cabinet, all rolled up. And that's how I spent a couple nights, 2 days and 2 nights there. It was already Friday morning. I begged my parents to let me out. I said, I can't move. I said, just for 10 minutes, I want to get out. Finally, they let me out. I said, I want to stretch out on the bed, just for a few minutes. They let me do that. And then they chased me. I didn't want to get in there anymore. I just couldn't take it. So they put me in like a double window, because the room that we occupied was a storeroom. It was just like a show window. They put me in there. And I didn't even realize my clothes was already freezing to the window. It was very cold there. And outside, they had, what do they call it, a window not shades, shutters from the outside. And inside there was a shade too, so it was fairly safe. Well, two Nazis came in and they asking for my sister. And my parents says she's not home. She doesn't know where she left the house, and they didn't see her. When did she leave? All this. Anyway, they said, she's probably hiding here. So they started looking everywhere. And they start wrecking up the whole place. And they start hitting my parents. And all the screaming and everything, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I started getting out from the window, and I was frozen. I couldn't move because my clothes was already there. Finally, I said, I am the one that you're looking for. One looks at the other, well, she's just a child. I said, well. So they took me. They said they're going to bring me back. They know that they don't have any use for me. I'm too young. But that was it. They took me. Maybe 2 hours later, the transport was already on the move. And without a goodbye, without a kiss, without a word, without a suitcase, they took me on the train. And they took me first to another town where they had a big group of people there. They had men and women. The women were separate, the men were separate. Spent there about 3 or 4 days, till they waited where to sell the girls, where to send us. Finally, they told us that we're going to the labor camp. And they took us to the train with dogs everywhere, with a lot of guards, and they were only with the dogs in case if somebody tries to run away, the dog would bring him back, live or dead. So they loaded us on the train, so we didn't know where we're going. Nobody told us anything. We traveled the whole day and the whole night probably. Who knows? We lost track of time.
It was crowded?
Crowded, of course. Cattle, that wasn't for a train for people. It was for cattle. And finally, the train stopped, and they unloaded us. And they told us it's going to take about 2 hours to walk to the camp. The ones that couldn't walk anymore, we redirect them around, and we finally came into the barracks. They said, this is for you. You're going to stay here forever. First of all, they took away all what we had. I didn't have much. They took away all the pictures from everybody. They took away all the pens, the pencils, paper, books. They checked everything. They gave each one back 2 dresses, what we had, just 1 pair of shoes, and of course they gave him a coat.
Where was this? Excuse me. Where was this?
We didn't know where we came, but that was the camp that we were to be there forever. That's what they told us. This is your new home. This is your new camp. Then the director from the factory, he introduced himself. He is the director. He's going to take us. We're going to work there. And as long as we work, we're going to be fine. And they gave us the room number, and every room mother came out and took in the girls, and they showed us where we're going to sleep. And they had a lot of speeches telling us nothing from no one. You're here, and the only thing you have to think about is the factory. You're going to be assigned machines. That's all you have to do. You have to behave. You have to go according to the rules. And if you work and you behave, then you'll be saved. Nothing is going to happen to you. This is a labor camp, We're not going to do anything bad to you, but you have to work and you have to think only about, forget about your family, forget about your friends. If you have, nothing exists anymore. You're here to work. It's the machine and you. That's all it matters. Well, we cried, needless to say, we cried the rest of the night. We cried. It must have been about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when we arrived there. And we cried, and the girls sat, the ones that were there already previously, they were Jewish girls, and they sat there. Some of them were there already for 6 weeks, others were there already for 10 weeks, and they told us, yes, they're going to work, and they're still in touch with the family. We shouldn't worry about, because they will let us write to the family, and they will give us letters once a month. We can write and we can get letters in return. And the job is hard, of course. It depends. Whoever is more talented would catch on faster. And they explained a lot of things. They quiet us down, and we shouldn't worry so much. Nobody asked what the food is. Nobody asked about anything. We didn't know what to ask. So next morning at 9 o'clock, they called us for breakfast. They gave us some soup made out of flour, and they told us in the evening we'll get some bread. And we went to work, tired, and worried about everything. We felt already that our freedom is gone forever. Came that factory. It was a spinnery. That's where I was assigned to, spinning. At first I was scared of the machines, the long machines. I never seen it in my life. I never dreamed about machines that exist like this. The air was terrible. It smelled terrible in there. A lot of steam. And when they introduced us to the machine, everything was muddy, because the linen that went through to the hot water, and linen, the raw linen, it had a lot of dust. So with the water and the dust, there was a lot of mud there. Later on, when I started working, it must have been some chemicals in there too, because it ate up all my skin from my hands. And I had to use the hands. There were no gloves, nothing. The German women that they worked with it, they had some medications, some creams that they used on their hands. And they kept on wiping it all the time with some special rags or whatever you want to call it. So they gave me 6 weeks to learn my new profession. I learned, and I was very good at it. So they taught me, as soon as I get a machine and I can take care of the machine, then they will give me a double soup. That was good too. Of course, you were hungry. What am I to do? So we started working. We worked like from 9 till 6 o'clock every day. We went back to the barracks, which was just about, they figured out, about 7 minutes walk. And we had to stay in line, and we would get a soup and a slice of bread. In the evening, we would get 2 potatoes and soup again. We had a lot of soup. Oh no, just a small cup of soup. It wasn't much, but we got 3 times a day soup at least. And that was good. Who could ask for anything more? But when I started tending the machine already, they asked me to work overtime. That was, we came back at 5:30. They gave me an hour to eat, and 6:30 we went back to work, and we worked till 10 o'clock. And for this, I had a double dinner, what they called, 4 potatoes instead of 2, and double the soup. So that was good too. So we worked like this maybe for a year. Later on, they start taking us to work 5 o'clock in the morning till 5 in the evening, and because the ones that could tend the machines. We had to go back again, 7:30 till 10 o'clock. That kept on changing. Later they made it from 5 in the morning till 5 in the evening. We came back till 7:30 till 11:30. The whistle would blow 4 o'clock in the morning. We had to get up. We had to stand in line, and we had to be counted. And we got used to the routine, of course. Letters from home just lasted from February the 18th. That's when I came to camp. Letters just lasted up till May. And then all of a sudden, we didn't get any more mail. It didn't take long, and we found out that they took away everybody there from town, and they sent them out. And my parents went to Treblinka. Everybody probably knows about, everybody heard already about Treblinka. It's very much known now in history because of that trial that's going on in Israel with the Myanmar. And my sister and my little brother were working in a factory there, from what I heard, for a while. And then they sent them to Auschwitz. I found this out after the war. My older brother was sent also to a camp, and he worked a long time. And one time something fell on his foot, and they sent him out, and they tortured him. I heard about it too, until they killed him. The only one that survived was my brother, that was taken in November 1940. He was in all kinds of camps. They kept on sending him everywhere, and he got used to the routine, and he got very smart about how to handle things. If they needed a plumber, he was a plumber. If they needed somebody to do some work with building barracks or factory building or whatever, if they needed somebody to put in windows, he would do that. He learned all those things, and electricity, everything. Whatever they needed, he would always volunteer, and maybe that saved his life. At the end, he wound up in Auschwitz himself. But then somehow they sent them out. They started evacuating Auschwitz when the Russians came close. So they evacuated these camps, and he was evacuated too. And they sent him to Buchenwald. And Buchenwald, he wasn't there for too long, just a short time, and then the liberation came. I was all the time the same camp, different times. They came from different camps that they needed more people, and they would come for 20 people. They would, women. They would come for 20 girls, for 20 women. They would come for 30 sometimes. At one time, our factory stopped already. They didn't have any calls, so they couldn't go on with producing anymore. So they started taking us to all kind of work. We cleaned the roads, we cleaned the hotels for the soldiers. We did all kind of work wherever they could put us. One time, we had to unload a truck. We didn't know what it is. And I was still healthy. They took probably about 30 girls, volunteers only. And since I was still healthy, I went everywhere, wherever there was something to do, because I wanted to show that I'm still able to work. So they took us in one hotel there to unload. We didn't know what we're going to load. First, there was some kind of bags that we didn't know what it is. And then we smelled there was some salami. So each one started putting some salami away in their clothing. I was scared. I was afraid. I didn't want to do it. I always tried to be, illegal. I didn't want to break the law. I was very much afraid of it. So, but then somebody came up to me. He says, "If we go, we're all going to be shot dead because we're stealing. Why should you be different?" Took me into it, and I took a little salami too. And that was a real holiday. We all survived. We all brought it in the barracks. I shared it with all the girls. We had 44 girls in my room, and we shared it. We all had a good evening that time. So to tell you just stories.
We're just changing tapes.
So anyway, I took that one salami, shaking and worrying about it. I was afraid they're going to kill me for it, but we all brought it back to the barracks, and we shared it with the other girls, and we had a real feast that night with that salami. It wasn't much. It was just a taste for everybody, because I shared it with the 44 girls in my room. But at least it was a good taste after so many years, salami. We didn't have it for about a long, long, long time, probably 3 years already. So then they started taking us up in the mountains to build trenches for the German soldiers because the enemy was coming close.
Now, we were located, what country are we in now?
That was in Gabestov, Czechoslovakia. The big town was Trutnov, in German language. That was Sudetenland. That's what they called it. It's still Sudetenland now. And we were going up on the mountains. It took us about 40 minutes to get till the mountains, to march, to build those trenches. Everybody had a shovel or that big dig. We had to carry it with us. And then it took us about 45 minutes to go up on top of the mountain to build the trenches there. By the time we got up, we were already exhausted. And that was in March. It was very cold, especially up on the mountains. The women that were our guards, the SS women, they were dressed in the uniforms too. I never said it. And they were dressed in the uniforms, and they had also guns. They didn't have any rifles, but they had guns. They made for themselves a bonfire, and they put out their hands, and they were warming themselves, and we were freezing to death. On top of it, they came, they took away for the ones that have coats or gloves, they took it away. They said, the colder you are, the faster you're going to work to heat up to get warm. And so that was a new profession for us, digging the ground. It was so hard, it was terrible, but somehow we had to do it. Besides that, there were men there too, SS men, that they were watching. We were watching on every step. And that was in the woods. They have a lot of woods there. That was, they called it the Riesengebirge, the real big mountains. And so that was our new profession. Every day they kept on saying maybe they'll get the calls and maybe the factories are still going to be working, but right now they don't know how long this is going to take. We realized that the war is probably coming to an end that time. Well, one day they caught us all. Like usually, every day they were counting us. It would take us about a half hour, maybe 45 minutes. By the time they get through counting us, wherever we went, we had to be counted. Whenever we came back from work, we had to be counted to see if nobody escaped. So one day we came back, and they took us out, and they counted us, and everybody had to form a big round, standing in a, in a circle, and they brought in some German officers, SS men, and they were picking up some gears, and they only picked the strong ones they were looking for. That's what we realized. Well,
What year are we talking about now?
I beg your pardon?
What year are we talking about?
That was already in 44. I beg your pardon. It was 45. It was 45. Beginning March, it must have been March of 45. Well, it didn't take too long. They got the gears that they wanted. The director from the factory, he was also SA, but he had us there already for 3.5 years, almost 3.5 years. Some of the girls were there. So he tried to be nice to some of the girls. And when they looked, the assessment, when they looked in our corner where I was standing, the director, for some reason, he came up, I don't know from where, and he stood in front of us, and he said, "You can't touch those. Those are my professionals." Turned around to me, he says, "Get in the back." Most likely they tried to get me that time, and he tried to keep his good workers. He still hoped that the factory is still going to be, and working, so he needed the professionals. Well, they took out maybe like 30-some girls, and they took them away. We never heard of them. Supposedly, they took him to another camp where they needed more workers, since we didn't have enough work. But we never heard from him. Then, one day, they called us back to the factory. Not everybody, but I was called back in the factory, and a lot of girls were there. And we worked a few days. One day, the factory, all the machines stopped, and they start chasing us back to the barracks. We didn't know what they're going to do with us. We didn't know what for. They chased us back to the barracks for no reason that we knew, because the factory was supposed to employ every day a few more. When we came to the barracks, we saw there were also about maybe 12 of those SS men in the uniforms, real mean faces. Some girls recognized one of them. They thought they recognized one of them. And the girl that recognized that one, she was in Auschwitz herself. She was one from the Hungarian girls that came to us late, maybe in 44, late part of 44, 1944. She must have recognized that man because she fainted. And when she came to, she didn't want to say anything at all. She pretended she couldn't talk. She was just overwhelmed. Later on, we found out that that was Dr. Mendele. You probably heard of him. He was one of the crowds. But that was much later. So, in the meantime, she didn't want to say anything. We got the order to get to our rooms. Everybody had to go to the rooms. Then they came and they started calling out each room separately. Well, we were number 3. We were the first ones to be called out, to come and form a line alphabetically to get into the office. Nobody knew what's in the office. We only knew that the assessments are there. We didn't know if they're going to poison us or they're going to shoot us or what they're going to do. Not only that, we had to undress. Just go without anything, nothing at all. That was a big panic, all young girls, to get undressed. Whoever heard of it? So it was just terrible. I can't even begin to describe the panic, the crying, the screaming. And they, as soon as they heard the screaming, the crying, they started beating us from every direction. And we formed alphabetically. We had to form that line. Then they opened the door. We couldn't see. We knew that the men are in there. And our Lagerfeuer, that means the German, how should I say, the top German women that was in charge of everything. She didn't look good to us either. She was a nice woman, but she didn't look good to us either that time. So, of course, we were scared all. We only saw the girls go in, and nobody came out the same way. They had a door. We didn't know what they're doing with them there. But we knew there's a door that leads you outside the barracks. So we figured whatever it is, if they poison you, they take you out the door. They don't want us to see. Finally, when it came to me, I came in. They had marked with chalk a circle on the floor. And you had to go around that circle slowly. They made fun of me. For everybody, the same thing. But if they didn't like the body, that's what we found out later. See, after you walked around, and when they say it's enough, they gave me a string, attached a number. They told me, this is your number. From now on, you don't have a name. You'll be only called by number, and it would be nice if you try to remember your number, because this is your only identification. And they let me go out through the door. So later on, I found out, I saw the others. We couldn't go in anymore to the same barracks. We had to go into another barrack where nobody was there. The ones that went through, they had to go to another barrack then. And the ones that didn't like, they didn't give you a number. And the next day, they were taken out. So quite a few girls left that time. If you were too bony, if you had some kind of some kind of, how should I say it, infection or some kind of a rash or whatever. If they didn't like something about your body, that was it. They took out the girls and sent them all to Auschwitz. And after that, they told us again, whenever they called us for the appeal, they told us that we are slaves. This is a concentration camp now. It's not anymore a labor camp. And pretty soon we're going to get the uniforms. And they're going to cut our hair up to the skin. We knew what that means because, like I said before, about 6 months earlier, they sent some girls from Auschwitz to us. There were about 24 of them. And they came, the tall girls had short dresses, hardly covered them. And the little girls had long dresses. That's what they gave them in Auschwitz. And each dress had a red cross in the back. And they just looked shaved up. The hair was all shaved off. So that's the way they went to the factory to work, and we knew this is what's waiting for us. But then the factory stopped again, and we went back to the trenches. We had very little food. We knew if this is going to take long, we're not going to survive. And they told us off and on, you don't have to worry about anything. You don't know what's going to happen with you. These barracks are built for you forever. You will never get out. This is your home. You might as well make peace with yourself. Don't worry about anything. This is yours. That's all you're going to have. This is your life. As long as you're going to last. See, if you don't worry much, and if you want to punish yourself, maybe you'll get to live a little bit longer. Because, you know, when you get sick, we don't have any room here for sick people. This is slavery, you have to work, and if you can't work, then we have to send you out. So, and they did send out girls that got sick. First of all, somebody who got sick never got any food. Never got a drop of food. Unless if a friend came and gave him a drop, how much could we spare? We didn't have much either. And one day we were working at those trenches, and we heard the airplane. We look up, and there was like little insects in the sky. We couldn't figure out. We thought, well, maybe that's how they're going to poison us. We were always afraid that they're going to do something to take our lives. But we watched it, and the SS, when they noticed it, they said, you keep your eyes on your work, because whoever looks up is going to be shot. Well, 2 girls were sort of under the bushes doing their needs. And with all the excitement, nobody even remembered that they asked permission to be there. The SS women that they watched them, they got excited too. We didn't know what was going on. But later on, we saw that a little, like little paper notes. We figured out it must be notes, fell down on the ground, and they were standing all with rifles, with the guns, watching us, and we couldn't pick up anything, and we were so anxious to know what's there. Then, after a while, one of the girls showed up. Nobody remembered from the Germans that she was sight with all the excitement. She showed up, and she says, I got one. So we realized she had one of the little paper. She had read it because she had a chance. Nobody was watching it and all that confusion. And she says, it's good news. Well, she put it in her rectum, and she brought it back in the box. So that's when we heard the good news. It was from the Allies, from a message. It wasn't for us. They were right. They said, this is for them, not for us. It was a warning to them that they know, we know that you're holding here slaves, Jewish girls. And the war is almost over. You better be nice to them. And everybody is going to be responsible for any death that will occur. If you kill any of the girls, you're going to be responsible. The war is almost over. And it was signed from Roosevelt and Churchill and Stalin. We knew the names. We were old enough to realize what it meant. So our spirits got a little better then. And a few days later, it must have been already in April, some English prisoners, we used to work with them together. We were not permitted to talk to them. We were not permitted to look at them. They were not permitted to talk or look at us. But they managed somehow to throw us a letter. But we had difficulties. We didn't know any English. So we had difficulties to read it. But then there was a girl who tried to put a few words together. They would always send us little messages to be brave, to be strong, not to give up hope. It's not going to last forever. You know, little notes like this. And at one time, we got a message from them that Poland is already liberated. Most of the country is liberated. The Germans are capitalizing, or whatever. I didn't say it right. Not to give up hope. Hold on. Liberation is near. And then we still walked there at the trenches all the time. Every time, every day, we got some kind of good news. But quite a few girls start, passing away just from starvation. Quite a few of them, not quite a few, about 3 that I recall, lost their mind. So they sent them out. Then one, she would get normal days and she would get crazy days, like they say. But she would be very affectionate and she would always run to the director. And that wasn't permitted. He said, you can be shot for that. She says, well, I don't care. You're the only one who can save me. Please save me. I get sick, she says. You know, I get sick and I forget a lot of times what's going on here. And please keep an eye on me. You're the only one. You're my father. You're the only one. I love you so much. That's the way she used to talk to him, because she was a little off. He saved her. He did. He felt, you know, very much for her. And another girl, well, it was getting very bad with the food, with everything, with all the better the politics was for us, the more they kept on beating us and punishing us, and it was terrible. Besides that, the lies and the bed bugs, they were our guests. From this alone, we would get sick. And one day, it was already 26th of April. A girl came in and she found a letter near the fence. And the letter was from one Czech woman. She wrote that Hitler committed suicide. The war is at the end. Be strong, because the war is near end. You'll be free in just days. Don't give up. You lasted till now. There's no need for any of you not to live another few days till the liberation. It was a big, big struggle. But then one day, early in the morning, the English prisoners told the guards to let him talk with the girls. And they rejected. They said they have no such permission. And at that time, they said that they have enough ammunition and they have enough guns. The war is over. And if they want to let them talk with some of the girls, then they will just kill them. So the women, there were just women around that time. The women gave in. They said just for 5 minutes, they will let them talk with the girls. And we saw when the English prisoners started coming to the fence, we wanted to know what it is. So naturally, everybody opened the windows, and then they kept on motioning we should come to the fence. So we went to the fence, and they said, it's just a matter of a few days. We hear all the time in the radio people that were looking, I'm looking for my daughter, I'm looking for my son, I'm looking for my brother, and this is all the time when they put on their radios, that's what they hear. So don't give up, it will take another few minutes, you're safe, there's no reason for you to die anymore. Be very careful, don't run into any dangerous things. Don't steal, don't bring any problems for yourself. So that was on a Sunday night. The Lagerführer, that was the eldest from she was German, but she was the one that slept with us in the same barracks. She had her room, of course. She was treated like royalty. But she, we congregated in the hall, and we talked about, everybody tried to tell everybody that finally it looks like we made it, we made it, we made it. And one time that Lagerführer came out, she says, it looks like you did make it. Be very careful, we don't know what's going to happen yet. Because in a lot of places they put on dynamite and they kill all the prisoners. She says, I hope this is not going to happen to you. She says, the war is to end, And now all the German SS are going to be in trouble. She says, I'm going to go with you. You know, I was pretty good to you. And because I was good to you in many cases, she says, I feel I have no enemies here. And I'm going to put on the Jewish star just like you had, a number from the ones that passed away, she says, and whatever happens to you, you're going to protect me. Even if one of you will give me one good day, she says, there's 364 girls here. I have 1 year not to worry about because it's going to be good for you. So we were happy about it. When is it going to happen? When? We'll keep an eye. We'll let you know. That night, we couldn't go to sleep. She begged us, go to sleep, go to sleep. So we decided in our room, 2 girls are going to be up and see if the liberation's coming. We didn't know what the liberation is going to look like. Well, we were up almost up till 2 o'clock. We didn't see anything. We didn't hear anything. At 2 o'clock, everybody was asleep. Then, 4 o'clock, I heard some noises. I didn't know what time it was, of course, but I heard some noises, and I raised my head, and I see the eldest from the Jewish girls. There was one eldest she was the one to present everything to us and take it forth and back, you know, to that German woman. She came in with a list, and she's going quietly to every bed, whoever was on the list, tell them to get up because she has them on the list and she has to go to work. I asked her, I said, where are we going to go to work? We have to get up by 7:30 to be counted at 7, but this is only 4 o'clock. I knew it's 4 o'clock because she told me so. It was really dark. She says, well, the ammunition factory needs some 60-some girls to work. They have opening for 60-some girls. I said, ammunition factory? They just had a blowout. They just had a big accident. A lot of them were killed. She says, yeah, that's why they don't have any more women that they can get the German women, so they decide they're going to get the Jewish girls. I said, I'm not going. She says, yes, you are. You're on the list. So I start crying. Everybody woke up. Then one girl says, instead to go to the trenches so far, I'll gladly change with you. I'll go and work in the factory for you. But she says, well, there's no changes. I have to get the ones that are on the list. And I looked through the list. I said, who are you having? And I saw they only picked really the top workers. I said, well, maybe that's good. I said, I never made any special decision where to go, what to do. I always did whatever they told me to do. I said, well, I'm going to go on. I'm not going to change. Whatever destination it is, that's what's going to be. I said, all right, I'm going to the ammunition factory. Got ready, we came there. It took about till 9 o'clock till somebody showed up to tell us what our job is, give us assignments. They had tables, and they made us sit down at the tables, and they explained. It was like one put in one screw, then another one put in another screw, another part, you know. It was going like this down all the tables, and that was supposed to be our job. Then the one that was in charge probably there for all this work, he said, you should be happy that we got you for this job. This is a prestigious job. We're going to work on the ammunition. If you learn to do exactly what we tell you to do, there won't be any more accident. Only if you neglect to do exactly. That's why we choose the best workers, because we know we can depend on it. Now, if you're going to do the right job, and you're not to say a word to anybody what's going on here. This is top secret. We know that you want to share it with the other roommates, but remember, as soon as we find out that somebody told anything about that project, you're going to be shot, and all the girls in your room are going to be shot. So remember what we're telling you. And another sentence. If you work good, we'll treat you like real laborers, not like Jews, not like Jewish slaves. Nobody asks any questions. What it means, they're going to treat us good like laborers. Anyway, we worked like this up till about 11:30, most of the time just explaining things. We didn't produce anything. Then they didn't have the parts. So they kept us till about 12:30, and they said we should go for lunch back in the barracks, and then we should get back at 1:30, an hour for lunch. At 1:30, they should have already delivered all what they need. We came back to the barracks. There was a big chaos there. Everybody tried to get a little water to wash a little bit, in the washroom, because they were talking about evacuation. So you're not permitted to take much with you. You just have to come the way you are. If you have a comb, if you have a toothbrush that nobody even had, nobody brushed any teeth, that's all you can take with you, but no packages. And we're waiting. We don't know where to go yet, but we're waiting for the orders where to take you. In the meantime, they went and they brought back all the girls that were working at the trenches, and everybody was crying. We didn't know what's going to happen. We thought of, well, if we wait here, we had good hopes that we're going to survive. Anyway, we were sitting and waiting for the order. The order never came. They never took us back to work. And we were sitting and waiting, and then we heard again the good news. It looks like the war is over because they're giving up. We are the last ones to be liberated in Sudetenland, in Czechoslovakia. Everybody is liberated already except our part in the world, that we still are with the German aggressors. That was good news too. We didn't go to sleep again. We were waiting up all night, changing 2 gyros every hour, another 2 gyros changing, waiting for the good news to see maybe it will happen while I'm up. Nothing happened. That was already Tuesday morning. The English prisoners came again, and they told the SS women to leave their booths, where they were standing and watching us, go home. They yelled at them to go home, to let us free, and they said no, they have orders to stay, and we're going to stay to the last minute, because they said, we are the ones. You have to take orders from us. We're still in charge. You can't tell us what to do. But they said, if you don't go, we're going to kill you one by one. Some of them left. The others yelled after them, we're going to report you, because Germany is still alive. We're going to report you. And the other said, if you would be smart, you would leave too. So they had a war between themselves. In the meantime, the road was full of soldiers. They were running, and with cars, with trucks, and with horse and buggy, a lot of them. There were no civilians anymore on the roads. It was all military. And the German woman that was in charge of us, Lagerfeuer, kept saying, don't even think about getting out. It's dangerous. We hope that they're not going to attack us here. Those are all the last prisoners. They don't care. They're probably going to be caught. They can do anything they want with us now. So this is very dangerous. Be patient. We still have to wait. We still have to wait. We don't know how long, but we have to wait. But up in the morning, the English prisoners came, and they cut the wires, and they told us to get out. The SS women were watching. They brought some SS men. The SS men were scared. The women had the uniforms on top. Underneath, they were wearing the private clothes. So we told them if they want, they shouldn't harm us and we won't do anything to them. But if they try to do something to us, then we're going to fight them with all what we have, all our life, all our strength. And so we got out and we found out about the magazine that was there in our store. And the factory where we worked, they have stored a lot of stuff there. That's what we were told. So everybody wanted to get something. We didn't know what it's there. So we started bringing full sacks of sugar and beans and whatever. We were just like crazy. We didn't know. Made a few steps and looked backward if nobody is following. We were not used to it anymore to walk by ourselves. We couldn't even go to the bathroom. All those years, we couldn't go to the bathroom on our own. If you wanted to go to the bathroom, you had to tell the, the SS woman, and she took you to the bathroom, and she rushed you. She says, "You're still in there. Come out. Hurry up. Hurry up. You can't be there forever." They wouldn't even give us any time to do our business. And here, we were just running and looking backward all the time to see if something was missing. The SS women were not there.
Where did you go?
Well, we went to get some food there. And the storerooms. We dragged all cases with different things, who knows. A lot of people, a lot of women, maybe 50, 60 people were dragging one bag of sugar till we got it to the barracks there. We were not even hungry that time from all the excitement. One girl comes in and she says, "A horse was just killed in front of the barracks. Let's go. Let's go in the kitchen, get knives, and we're going to get meat." So a lot of them ran out to get the meat. I said, "No, I'm going to last another day or two. I'm not going to cut the meat from a horse. I can't do it."
How long, what time was it between this and the time you were actually liberated?
Actually, Wednesday, we heard the rumblings, and we looked out, and there were soldiers with the tanks that came. And that's when we realized they were not German soldiers, they were Russian soldiers. Somebody discovered they were Russian soldiers. And they stopped at the barracks. They told us that we're free. Nobody could understand what they were saying. But then we realized there was an old woman, not old, she must have been about 42 years old. She had 2 daughters. And she said that she will understand Russian. She was also with us, Jewish women. So she went out. And all I remember, they were talking, and she kept on saying, "Da, da, da." And she started crying and cried and cried. And then one soldier came in, and he asked, in Jewish language, if we're Jewish girls. And we said, yes. So the problem was solved. He told us that they're Russians, they came, and they are here. We shouldn't be afraid anymore of the Germans, because they're all in prison. Of course, not all, but the ones that they caught in the neighborhood, they took them to prison. And they said, you're free to do whatever you want. If you know any of them that were hurting you, go back to them, kill them. No, who of the girls is going to kill them? How? What are we going to do with them? There were a few that we wanted, to get even with them. We thought if we catch them, we get even with them. Not to kill them. We couldn't kill them, but just maybe slap him a little bit like they did with us. Maybe not as hard, because we didn't have all that power, but just to show them that now we are in charge. Now we have. But they skipped.
So where did you all go then?
So we were there in the barracks, and it was very bad, to be honest, because the Russians start coming in, the Russian soldiers. And they tried, you know, to talk to the girls. They wanted to sleep with the girls. So we all, you know, tried to sleep in one group. We tried to sleep on the floor, behind the beds. We were scared of him. Actually, we were scared of him. But then the higher rank military man found out about it, and he said he's going to protect us. Then some of the Nazis, twice they put on dynamite in the barracks. But the Czech partisans saved us from that, twice. We didn't have an authority. There was nobody in charge anymore. Everybody could do what they wanted. One day, a man came in, and we thought he was a Jewish guy. And it turned out that he was a Jewish boy. He came, he found out that he had a cousin there. So he came. He was already liberated a few weeks. We almost killed him. Everybody was pressing. Everybody wanted to see what a Jewish boy looks like. We didn't see any Jewish boy for so many years. And then finally, you know, everybody was pressing, and he finally managed to stand up on the table, and he said, I'm Jewish, and if you want to ask any questions, I'm going to try to answer whatever I say. And so he says, the main thing I want to tell you, that you have to wait. All the bridges are torn. There is no way you can go, nowhere you can get out of here. You have to wait till somebody is going to show up and give you directions how to go on, where to go, what to do. At least you're going to be notified about things. I'm going to see to it that you are taken care of. So that was one day. It took about 3 days. A girl came on a motorcycle. And after everybody started looking, it happened to be my cousin. She was about 16 kilometers away from us. She knew where I was because she found out, she came later. She was caught a little bit later than me, a few months later. She knew all the time where I was. And I heard about her too. She came and she says she is going to find somebody else, that she had an address to find another girl, a friend, and then she'll come and we're going to go to look to see if somebody's alive. How are we going to go? She says, on the motorcycle. We're going to all three go on the motorcycle. I says, impossible. She says, well, if we can't, then she's just going to take me. So by the time when she came back, she told me she discovered that our aunt is alive. So then we just started walking. Then we got some bicycles. And we had a struggle till we made it to our aunt.
Now, you spent some time in a displaced persons camp, am I correct?
Yes.
Now, how much time between the liberation and the time you got to the displaced persons camp?
I got at least, I mean, I was on my own after we went to my aunt. So I was on my own with my aunt, with my cousin. We had a room, and we walked. We had to walk, and we were from about May the 9th. That's when we were liberated. Last day, everybody was free. That was the last day for us. The 9th of May till about, I would say, October, when I found out that my brother's alive. And I tried to locate him. I was traveling around all that time looking for family. And I found out that my brother must be alive. And that was a sensation in itself. There was a girl when they caught me and my mother. There was another girl in that place where they accumulate everybody. And she wasn't as lucky as me that time because her brother or father never came. So they sent her away with the same, they sent her away with a transport with all the men. And she was there, you know, washing the floors and helping with the cooking and washing the clothes. That was in the beginning, you know, in 1940, when they still tolerated that. And the men were just there for labor camp and they just had to work. Well, she knew my brother. And she spent some time, I don't know, a few months there with my brother. Then they transferred her somewhere else. And no time at all, she met again up with my brother. And then they decided not to have girls with boys together. The boys had to do all kinds of the cooking and all the washing the floors and everything. And the girl was sent to a women's camp not far in Sudetenland, where I was, in Czechoslovakia. Well, one time I went to the main camp where they got the food that they divided to all the other camps. I was privileged to go to pick up our groceries, so to say, you know. Instead of horses, 2 girls were pulling the wagon. Usually they would pick 4 girls, change 2 girls now. When we got tired, the other 2 girls were, so 2 of them were pushing and 2 of them were pulling. And that's the way we got our food in, whatever there was. Once a month we would go to that camp. That camp also had a room for the sick girls. When you got sick, even in my camp, somebody got sick, they transferred to that hospital, so to say. And there were no doctors there. There was just a nurse taking care of them, just temporarily. We didn't know what's happening with them, of course. So one time when, because I was a good worker, they gave me the privilege to go to pick up groceries. You had a chance to see maybe some other girls from other camps. That's when I found out that my cousin was there, not far. And that time, a girl recognized me too. She started calling me from a window. And I looked around and she was in that sick room. I asked her who she was. I didn't recognize her. And she told me, I was with you the same time. She told me her name and I knew already who she was. She says, regards from your brother. He was doing fine. And she told me why she was with him and all this, and he was getting along all right. She says, you take care of yourself because your brother is strong and he will survive. Just take care of yourself. Maybe you will survive too. That's the secret she told me. 2 days later, she was sent to Auschwitz. And nobody knew what happened to her. Well, when I was liberated, most of the girls, and there were some boys already too, you know, in the places where we lived, they would get together. And one time, somebody comes up and she says, remember me? I said, no. Who are you? She says, well, I was the one, I'm alive, she says, don't get scared. I was the one that was sent to Auschwitz. I said, how did you get out of there? She says, this is a long story, but this is not important now. I want you to know I saw your brother in January 1945. He was strong, he was alive, he looked good to me. I said, what does it mean? She says, I saw him in Auschwitz. He was working as a plumber. He came with a group of others to clean the toilets. She talked to him and she told him where I was, and if he survives, he should look for me. She had every hope that I will survive too. Just like an angel. So she gave me the hope. She says, look for your brother. because I think he must be alive. She says she told him to come back the next day because that girl got the job to work in a warehouse where they took all the clothes away from the people that went to be burned. And her job was to check the clothes for valuables. So she told my brother he should come back next morning and she will give him maybe a ring or something that might come in handy for him.
During that period from May until October, did you locate your brother?
Yes,
And then you
in
both
October.
and then you both went to the displaced persons camp
No,
together?
wait. So anyway, that girl told me that my brother's alive, and I started looking for him. Whenever I saw a man, I asked him if he happened to know anybody by that name, if he saw him somewhere. So after a couple weeks, maybe, I don't know, maybe 2 months, somebody told me, yes, he was liberated in Buchenwald, and he is alive. I'm sure it's him, the way he described. So I had hopes. I finally decided, I said, I'm going to go to Buchenwald and try to find him, but I couldn't go by myself because I was afraid of the Russian soldiers, that they were the liberators there, you know, they were rough. So I was waiting. I said, as soon as I get a Jewish boy that will say, all right, let's go to Buchenwald, then maybe we'll go, take the trip. Then later on I heard that the Americans made the decision that Buchenwald is going to belong now to the Russians. The Russians took over and they got out from there. So a lot of the Jewish boys went on the into Germany, you know, on the American zone. So I went on the American zone to Germany, deeper into Germany, and I went from camp to camp and tried to find my brother. Till one time I got a letter that was addressed to another brother, my older one, and that was from his wife. She was looking for him, and there was an address where she is. I thought, well, I have nobody. I'm going to go find my sister-in-law because I had the address. This must be something. So the address was to Stuttgart, Germany, on the American zone. So I went there. I struggled for quite a few weeks till I got there. And when I came there, I found my older brother's wife and her sister, and they told me, yes, but your brother went to look for you. He found out that you were alive. So he went to look for me. And it took about a week, maybe 10 days, till finally he came once home by 2 o'clock in the morning, and he got in like a storm. I'll never forget that night. I heard him, the steps, and I said, somebody's opening the door. So my sister says, that must be your brother, you better hide, we'll surprise him. So they pulled the blankets over me. And he came in, dancing around and screaming, I found my sister, I have the address where she is, I'm going tomorrow morning, I'm going to go to find her. So you can imagine what it got to when he saw me in bed. And when I saw him, we didn't see each other over 5 years. So that's, from then on, that was the P camp. He was already in the P camp. He went from Buchenwald. He found my name on a list because everybody was, all different lists. Wherever you went, you would try to leave a name there. Like in Prague, when we came in there, we took some pencils on the walls. You had all kinds of names on the walls. In case if maybe somebody from my family comes there, and maybe they'll find my name. Maybe they'll know that I'm alive. So he found out that I was alive, and he found even somebody that told him the address where I was. So he wanted to go for me the next morning. But I beat him to it. I came to him. He was already. So from Buchenwald, he saw my name. He went to Bergen-Belsen. That's where my name was. Supposedly, I would be there. But that was my oldest sister-in-law's name. She had the same name as me after she got married. Her first name was the same as mine. And when he came to Bergen-Belsen, they told me she's in the hospital, sick with typhus. He went in the hospital, he looked, and he couldn't find. Finally, they took him. And he says, that's not my sister. So by the time they start talking, that's when he found out that this is his sister-in-law. He never knew her because my brother got married during the war.
Did he come to the United States with you?
My brother is, yeah, he came to the United States.
When
He's
did you
now
come
living
here?
in Florida. He was in Brooklyn, New York.
When did you come to the United States? When did you both come?
We came in 1949, June 18. We came to New York. That was my birthday. 1949.
What was your reaction?
Great excitement. We had a very bad trip, you know. We came, it was a small ship, but it was an ambulance ship during the war, General Mercy. Mostly everybody was sick on the ship. You know, nauseated, really sick. I wasn't too bad. But when we came the night when we approached, that was the 17th, the captain gave me those binoculars. He says, look up there. This is New York. This is the shore. And we just went crazy over it. Everybody pushed and everybody wanted to see what it is. And we saw all the lighting, and we couldn't imagine what it is like. But finally, everybody was so happy that we're coming to the shores, that we're finally going to be in United States. We called it America. We didn't know the different United States from America. Everybody was happy.
Did you know anyone here?
No.
So you were by yourself and you...
With my husband.
Oh, you had your husband at that point?
Yeah.
You met him in the displaced persons camp?
Yeah, yes, he was not different displaced persons. He saw a picture of me, accidentally. So he came to see me. After we saw each other maybe 4 or 5 times, we got married.
Short courtship.
We knew all together, we knew each other. It took 10 weeks. Like we met somewhere in March and we got married May the 20th.
And it's been good.
Thanks God, we should only be healthy.
Yeah, I hope so too. And you have any children?
We have one daughter.
And she lives?
She lives in New Jersey, Addison, New Jersey. She got married very young, 19 and a half, after knowing the boy for 5 years from out of town. And well, they both went to Rutgers University. They got married, naturally, after 5.5 years. And now they have 4 children. And my son is working for AT&T. He is a computer man. And he didn't get his doctorate degree in psychology, industrial psychology, but that's his job because of his knowledge from psychology and computers. He has a good job.
I want to thank...
My daughter was trained for, what do you say? Can I help? She was working with the enzymes and the lab. You know, when you get sick, I'm a little confused. When you get sick, a different disease that it's inherited. Can't remember how to call it.
Sounds like interesting work. Well, I really thank you very, very much. You've helped us a great deal. You've been,
Thank you.
it's a
I lost most of
tremendous
my family.
story.
I lost all my parents. I lost 2 brothers and a sister. My grandparents were still alive. I had about 18 aunts and uncles and numerous cousins. A little town where I was born, everybody was related to everybody, and it was great. Wherever I came, I felt at home. And all of it was lost. But thanks God for that. We're grateful that we came to the shores here, and we're making a good living. We worked very hard, but we live like normal people. And we are very thankful that we had a chance to come here to make our life here.
We thank you for sharing this with us. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.